Harrison with you. You are listening and watching To Go Harrison on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM in Santa Barbara, 93.7 in San Diego, and 99.5 in Central California. Well, it is certainly a ubiquitous phenomenon. All over the earth, whether it's Isfahan, whether it's Dallas, Texas, Miami, the northern suburbs of Chicago, being gay is absolutely the new normal. It is a planetary phenomenon that has virtually no controversy except in a pocket full of places. Well, coincident with Gay Pride Month, which is this month, we have a new movie called Beginners, which stars Ewan McGregor and Christopher Plummer. So normal, so mainstream is this that a movie can come out simultaneously without any planning in advance. Equally public television, such as our own Los Angeles KCET, does a Gay Heroes Award broadcast, with even banks supporting as major underwriters. This is the new normal, the new common. And so this movie, Beginners, speaks about what many people have gone through. A character by the name of Hal, played by Christopher Plummer, is a 75-year-old man who comes bursting out of the closet, kindling flying, as Ellen did 10 years ago on ABC TV, and he's suddenly faced with, what about my new life? How do I date? I'm 75. And by 78, he gets his first boyfriend. Simultaneously, his 30-something-year-old son, played by Ewan McGregor, is dating girls and is, well, equally clodhopperish and a bit of a neophyte in that particular realm. So both have become beginners in learning how to date other people, that is. And so that's what it is, based on the true story of director Mike Mills and what he went through with his father. We have with us right now Ewan McGregor to talk a little bit about the movie Beginners. And Ewan, give us a bit of a backstory on your character and what goes on.
It's based on a true story of the film, and it's based on things that are very deep and powerful. It's based on loss and love, and those are the themes really in it, and those are things that we can all relate to. They're very, very powerful. You know, falling in love with somebody is a very powerful physical and emotional experience that we really like as human beings. And as this film explores that with the love story, I think it could be quite moving and powerful. And also the fact that we're dealing with a relationship with our parents and the complexities of that and trying to figure that out. I mean, in this case, in a rather extreme way, because Oliver discovers that his father is gay, and so he's got a lot to kind of work through. But I think we can all relate to the story of figuring out our relationship with our parents and then dealing with our, the loss of them when they come to die,
And now a conversation with Ewan McGregor.
Got some technology going on here.
If you lean, we'll get opposite channels. It's exciting.
Is that right?
Woo! Well, we're going to have some fun then. Now, you've done everything from Star Wars to supernatural thrillers to crime dramas, suspense, you name it, the whole soup, cat, and pizzas. This is really a very kind of intimate human look. How did you decide to grab onto this particular script?
Well, the very first thing that happened was I was told the story of Beginners going up a chairlift in Sundance by a friend of mine, Rich Klubeck, who is Mike's agent, and now my agent, who wasn't at the time. And I was fascinated by the story. And then I read the script and met Mike. And after a long chat where I realized I was only very interested in finding out more details about his life and his real story. We didn't discuss the script very much or the film itself, but I found that I was very fascinated in learning more about what happened and how he'd felt when his father came out and how he felt about his mother and his childhood and what it was like. I realized I was really invested in the story already, and I was really lucky to see it through with him because he's a wonderful, wonderful director, Mike.
I imagine it had to be really cathartic for him to get his personal story out, but also, you had a chance to live through really a real human being versus just a made-up scripted one, as, tends to be the case in much of filmmaking or television. That has to bring things to a different level.
Well, it was emotional sometimes playing the scenes. Of course, it was. It was never a burden or a pressure to be playing Mike. It never he never expected me or wanted me to do an impersonation of him, or to feel like I was having to mimic his voice or his movements. But I did want to feel like him. I wanted to portray, to really portray him, a feeling of who Mike is and what he's about. And so I had him record all of the dialogue, and I had that on my laptop so I could listen to it. And it was very amusing that it was like a play read, a script read that he did with his assistant Sarah, and occasionally you could hear him in the background going, "Oh no, I really screwed that up," and he'd occasionally give me notes. You don't have to say anything like that, and I read that really badly. And it was a very amusing. It's a very amusing thing to still have on my computer. I listen to it from time to time.
Harrison with you in a conversation with Ewan McGregor about his movie Beginners, which stars Ewan McGregor and Christopher Plummer, directed by Mike Mills, based on the true story of Mike Mills. Here on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM in Santa Barbara, 93.7 FM in San Diego, and 99.5 in Central California. Don't forget, you can visit us anytime at goharrison.com. That's one word, GoHarrison.com. We're also live video streaming at this moment through our homepage on goharrison.com. Or equally on Ustream, which you can watch on DirecTV or through your iPhone or Droid or any internet form that you wish. Again, the one-stop shop, the easy way is to simply go to goharrison.com, where you can also join us on Facebook and tweet live during this broadcast, and we're more than happy to make it interactive and work that way for you.
What about exploring the evolution of relationships? I mean, something that affects 7 billion humans. We all want to know, how do you date?
Yeah.
How do you do it right? What's the take-home lesson? And to experiment and do it with so many different sides of the human spectrum, you must have learned a lot too.
Well, it was an interesting exploration of that, of course. The idea that the relationship that you're first party to is your parents' relationship, and how does that affect your ability to then go on and successfully have your own relationships, or not? I suppose in Oliver's case, in my character's case, and in Oliver's parents' case, his father is gay and has always been gay, and he discovers that, and when his father's 75, he comes out, tells his son that he's gay, and then Oliver has to look back at his childhood. And in the film, it's interesting. You only see him in the past as a child with his mother, and because when Mike's father came out, his mother had already passed away. So I suppose you'd have to ask Mike, but I suppose he's exploring those scenes in the film because his mother isn't around to ask. He is not able to ask his mother those questions. Whereas, he had some years with his father after he came out to come to terms and ask questions and discover what was going on in his childhood.
I think any director who's spent that much time doing introspection and paying attention to the inner workings of one's own mind, to be able to craft your life story and then have other people represent it. I mean, you really catch on to why stuff works the way it works, why we as humans, as mammals, tend to act and react the way we do. I imagine as a director, he probably sticks out and has techniques that are a lot different from just sort of the mainstream Hollywood style.
Especially when you're working with someone as good as Mike. I mean, it was such a wonderful atmosphere, and he really creates a beautiful place for the actors to really explore, and it felt like a kind of second reality. I mean, it really felt like very real what we were doing. The camp, he gave us complete freedom. The spaces were lit so that we didn't have to worry about marks, or we were given everything that we needed to make these scenes as kind of special as I think they are. And so when Christopher passes away, when Hal, Christopher plays my father Hal, when his character passes away in the film, I mean, that's a sort of devastating thing to put yourself through, to imagine what that might be like. And it's certainly even more so because it was Mike's story. So my director behind the monitor, was watching a kind of reenactment of his father's death, you know, which was clearly very upsetting for him. And there was there was an emotional level in the room at the time that was really high. Everybody felt it, and because everybody is either reflecting on the passing of a relation or a loved one, or the idea of the passing of their parents, and so everybody in the places, everyone on set was. It was a really emotional day, you know.
Harrison with you. We're talking to Ewan McGregor. The movie is called Beginners. It also stars Christopher Plummer and Melanie Laurent. Directed by Mike Mills, a story about going from moth to butterfly, transitions, transformations, and the prickly part of life that so many of us experience. Let's hear a clip now from the movie to paint a broader picture, and then we will continue with more conversation with actor Ewan McGregor.
This is 2003. This is what the sun looks like, and the stars. This is the president, and this is the sun in 1955, and the stars, and the president. My parents got married in 1955. They had a child, and they stayed married for 44 years until my mother died. 6 months later, my father told me he's gay.
I'm gay.
I remember him wearing a purple sweater when he told me this, but actually he wore a robe.
I'm gay.
He was gay the whole time they were married. Oliver, I just met a girl. You point, I'll drive. This way.
Hello?
Oliver?
Yeah. They had some wonderfully loud music in the club tonight.
What kind of music's that?
Probably house music.
House music. Okay. House music.
The bronchoscopy revealed a mass.
Well, let's not rush out and tell everyone.
Sometimes I wonder.
Before Anna, I had 4 serious relationships. I let all of them fall apart.
Just be happy about it, huh?
The melody.
For the first time, I saw him really in love.
And I am once again with you.
People like us, half of them think things will never work out. The other half believe in magic.
And each kiss an inspiration.
Sex, life, healing, nature, magic.
The memory of love's refrain.
This is what I'm supposed to feel like. Yeah, me too.
Harrison with you, and that was a montage from the movie Beginners, starring Ewan McGregor, Christopher Plummer, and Melanie Laurent, directed by Mike Mills. We're talking right now with Ewan McGregor, and we're talking about his role in which he has to cope as a 30-something-year-old guy with a father in his late 70s who suddenly comes out of the closet and then gets ill and passes on, but actually is able to formulate a relationship. It's quite funny because in this there's a dog that doesn't talk, but we see subtitles of the dog's thoughts reflecting back what Ewan McGregor's character of Oliver is actually thinking. But with all of the intimacy and flashing back and forth, the time shifting that goes on in this movie, how much rehearsal time did you actually have? I mean, it's a highly complex and intellectually and emotionally satisfying story.
Yeah, we had a week, which is not a lot of time, but it is a lot of time when you're being directed by Mike, because he knows very well how to use that time. And so on the first day we had lunch, we met and we had lunch together. And then he sent me and Christopher off to a clothing store in LA in a car alone. He gave me $200 and he said, I want you to buy Christopher a scarf. And he sent us off to the shop. So we got in the car and I'd never met Christopher before. But, of course, Christopher, so it's quite a big deal to be in a car with him. And then we got to Barney's, and there I was tottering after him. And in the car, he looked at my jeans, and he said, what are those? I said, they're just black jeans, Christopher. He said, they're very tight. And I said, well, I suppose they're what we would call skinny jeans. So he became obsessed with finding skinny jeans. So we got to this clothing store, and I kept saying, the scarves are over here, Christopher. And he was off. He'd seen the jeans section at the back of the store, and over he went. And he had the shop assistant pulling out, I don't know how many pairs of black skinny jeans. He was trying them on, and I kept going, Christopher, I've got to get you a scarf. I've got to get you a scarf, man. Come on. And in the end, I had to, he hadn't brought his wallet, so I put about $1,200 worth of black skinny jeans on my credit card, which I had to get paid back from the production. And as an afterthought, I grabbed a scarf on the way out. So when we got back to the rehearsal room, some hours later, we really were. It had totally broken the ice, and although he's in his 80s, but he's incredibly sharp. He certainly doesn't need somebody to be looking after him in a clothing store. But I did get because of his insistence on getting the jeans, I did get the feeling of what it might be like to be, looking after your dad in this situation, and
it kind of seems like a very different directorial technique. I mean, there's something definitely to be said about, a hands-on experience versus an imagined one out of your head and recreating sort of the fantasy or the fictional interpretation of something. But, is this a common experience?
Well, Christopher said I think after 2 or 3 days of rehearsing, Christopher said rather dryly to Mike, he said, not all directors do this, Like Mike might not have realised. It was very funny, and Mike said, I know, but I'd just like you to do it. And from there, and then we did lots of funny things. But Mike had me make the bed we were rehearsing in the suite, and he had me making the bed while Christopher was being disruptive. And we had a lunch in the film. Hal is a member of a gay group called the Prime Timers. So Mike had me call all of the actors who were going to be playing in the Prime Timers and invite them to lunch at the suite, find out what they would like to eat, organise the food, and put this lunch together. So I was in charge of putting the lunch together. As they all arrived, I was organising their food as they were meeting Christopher, and it was a very real. It felt exactly what it might have been like, for Mike, who was constantly doing things like that, trying to organise his dad's life while his dad was living this fantastic new life as a gay man.
Oddly, I can relate to that for some reason. Harris, with you, we're talking to Ewan McGregor. The movie is called Beginners. Ewan, born in Crieff, Scotland, really became enthralled with the world of acting from a very early age. You know him from so many movies, BAFTA Award winner, whether it's Star Wars, Trainspotting, The Pillow Book, Emma, Brastoff, you name it, the whole Soup, Cat, and Pizzas, not to mention guest appearances on ER. It goes on and on. Really a versatile, incredible actor who's sharing insights of what the process is like, and something that really everybody can relate to, that being, how do you connect with another human being, and what are the pitfalls like, and then being directed by somebody after whom the story was really modeled. That would be director Mike Mills, and the father played by Christopher Plummer. Reminding you that we're also streaming live at goharrison.com. That's one word, GoHarrison.com, via Ustream on the Go Harrison video channel, as well as naturally on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM in Santa Barbara, 93.7 FM in San Diego, and 99.5 in Central California. Beginners also stars award-winning actress Melanie Laurent, who really came into great notoriety in Quentin Tarantino's film Inglourious Bastards, and she won with her fellow actors the Screen Actors Guild Awards top film honor. Was the Ensemble Prize. She also is the Empire Award nominee and earned Best Actress citations from the Online Film Critics Society, as well as the Austin Film Critics Association. And Ewan McGregor, as you were dealing with her in this romance, it wasn't sort of the typical Hollywood romance with laughs and chuckles, though it was quite amusing and warm and human, but it really was more like a frantic roller coaster ride with really high highs and really low lows.
When Melanie and I were rehearsing, the very first thing that Mike had us do, and I'd never met Melanie before, And she's a fantastic kind of force of nature. She's a very vibrant young lady. She comes in the room with great energy, and she's absolutely lovely. And I loved her work in Glorious Bastards. I thought she was fantastic. And the first thing he had us do was sit down on his sofa in his house and break up with each other like 5 times each. And every time he'd say, "Okay, you," and I was thinking, "Oh God, Mike, no, please don't. It's so awkward. It's such a horrible idea." And Melanie was like, "No, what are you, crazy?" She just wasn't. So he was quite strong, He just went, "No, I really want you to try and do this." So he gave us every time he would give us you're breaking up with her because you feel like she's holding you back, and you've got all these plans, and she's really not moving forward with you. And in every instance, the other person had to not want to break up. So it was just awful, Breaking up with someone's it's just a disaster, horrible idea. And there I was having to do it over and over again with someone I didn't know. And by the end of it, first of all, we were so relieved it was finished, but we did it, and we went through it, and we learned something from it. It broke down some kind of, felt like we knew each other much more. And then he had to stare at each other in the eyes for what he said was 2 minutes, but he lied, and it was much longer. He told me that recently. He said it wasn't 2 minutes, it was more like 4 or 5 minutes.
Well, you obviously love the art form of film. Would you like to direct movies yourself?
I would love to, yes. I've been slightly nervous about it because it's such a big idea, and I've also never wanted to do it just to be a director. I wanted to do it because I want to tell this particular story, and I'm still waiting for that story to find me, if you like. And also my kids are quite, no, I would like not to. Mainly I'd like to direct so that I can turn up to work and not have to take off my clothes. Because every day I turn up to work, I've got to take my clothes off and put on someone else's clothes. And it'd be quite nice to turn up at work and just wear my own clothes all day. I think that would be nice.
Harris, with you, we're talking to Ewan McGregor about his movie Beginners. And one final question. The dog Cosmo in this movie becomes your new best friend. And, this dog is just absolutely nuts and in love with you. More than just training, obviously. So you must be, obviously a real dog person.
I love dogs, yeah. I have replaced Cosmo with my own little version of him. On the very last day of the shoot, I found my little dog, Sid, in a little rescue centre in Sepulveda called the Lang Foundation. And because I realised having spent, a couple of months with Cosmo that I really was missing having a dog. I grew up with dogs, and my wife's allergic to dogs, and so anyway, eventually I found little Sid, who's a poodle sort of guy. I don't know exactly what he is, but he doesn't make my wife allergic, and so now I'm absolutely not, like in the film, I'm knocking around with Cosmo all the time on this little white dog on a lead, and then nowadays I'm still knocking about with a little white dog on a lead, but he's my dog.
And we think that we rescue a dog, but it rescues us, doesn't it?
Yeah, it found me, yeah.
This is Harrison.
Harrison with you. You are listening and watching To Go Harrison on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM in Santa Barbara, 93.7 in San Diego, and 99.5 in Central California. Well, it is certainly a ubiquitous phenomenon. All over the earth, whether it's Isfahan, whether it's Dallas, Texas, Miami, the northern suburbs of Chicago, being gay is absolutely the new normal. It is a planetary phenomenon that has virtually no controversy except in a pocket full of places. Well, coincident with Gay Pride Month, which is this month, we have a new movie called Beginners, which stars Ewan McGregor and Christopher Plummer. So normal, so mainstream is this that a movie can come out simultaneously without any planning in advance. Equally public television, such as our own Los Angeles KCET, does a Gay Heroes Award broadcast, with even banks supporting as major underwriters. This is the new normal, the new common. And so this movie, Beginners, speaks about what many people have gone through. A character by the name of Hal, played by Christopher Plummer, is a 75-year-old man who comes bursting out of the closet, kindling flying, as Ellen did 10 years ago on ABC TV, and he's suddenly faced with, what about my new life? How do I date? I'm 75. And by 78, he gets his first boyfriend. Simultaneously, his 30-something-year-old son, played by Ewan McGregor, is dating girls and is, well, equally clodhopperish and a bit of a neophyte in that particular realm. So both have become a very kind of intimate human look. How did you decide to grab onto this particular script?
Well, the very first thing that happened was I was told the story of Beginners going up a chairlift in Sundance by a friend of mine, Rich Klubeck, who is Mike's agent, and now my agent, who wasn't at the time. And I was fascinated by the story. And then I read the script and met Mike. And after a long chat where I realised I was only very interested in finding out more details about his life and his real story. We didn't discuss the script very much or the film itself, but I found that I was very fascinated in learning more about what happened and how he'd felt when his father came out and how he felt about his mother and his childhood and what it was like. Also the fact that we're dealing with a relationship with our parents and the complexities of that and trying to figure that out. I mean, in this case, in a rather extreme way, because Oliver discovers that his father is gay, and so he's got a lot to kind of work through. But I think we can all relate to the story of figuring out our relationship with our parents and then dealing with their, the loss of them when they come to die,
And now a conversation with Ewan McGregor.
Got some technology going on here.
If you lean, we'll get opposite channels. It's exciting.
Is that right?
Woo! Well, we're going to have some fun then. Now, you've done everything from Star Wars to supernatural thrillers to crime dramas, suspense, you name it, the whole soup, cat, and pizzas. This is really become beginners in learning how to date other people, that is. And so that's what it is, based on the true story of director Mike Mills and what he went through with his father. We have with us right now Ewan McGregor to talk a little bit about the movie Beginners. And Ewan, give us a bit of a backstory on your character and what goes on.
It's based on a true story of the film, and it's based on things that are very deep and powerful. It's based on loss and love, and those are the themes really in it, and those are things that we can all relate to. They're very, very powerful. Falling in love with somebody is a very powerful physical and emotional experience that we really like as human beings. And as this film explores that with the love story, I think it could be quite moving and powerful. And